Hi, Deborah here. Today I want to speak about the power of one voice. Now, if we go back into history where the slaves and they were, right, when they were captured and brought to these various islands. Now, remember they were taken from different, whether it's continents or what, they were taken, right, and they were brought to a specific place. And they would not have known the language that was spoken. So, let's say for instance, you took English speaker, a Spanish speaker, French speaker, Dutch, right? And you put them together, they would not know, they would not understand what each is saying, right? But the moment they took more slaves from the same area, let's say Africa, right? So a shipment of African slaves came, and then another shipment came. And when that shipment came, they knew the language that was spoken. They were able to communicate with each other. They will be able to strengthen in numbers. Because why? They knew the language that each of them spoke. Right? Now, when they did not understand each other, they were not strengthened because, you remember, their masters would have given them certain information to abide by and teach them their way of life. But the moment a person of the same dialect came and spoke, they were able to develop themselves. They were able to grow, right? And you know what happened? They started to rebel. They grew in strength, and when they understood their strength, they were able to rebel. They were able to gain things that they could not have because they did not knew themselves. And so that is why the topic of the power in one language, right? Now let's bring it here to nowadays society. Some of us grew up in areas where the language is of violence. Some of us grew up in an area where the language is book, right? Some of us grew up in a language where we have a touch of abuse, or we are that verse where we are of the upper class, right? Now, in each community has their own language, right? And what we need to understand is that if we are able to join everything together and become one, we are able to eradicate many of the ills in society, right? Because let's say, for example, I'm not shunning any area, but let's say Laventille. We know Laventille is known for a lot of bad stuff. Even though there's a lot of good coming out of it, the stigma is Laventille is bad. But is it a fault to them, or is it that this is the language that was fed onto them as they grew, and as they grew up and become young men and young women, they exercise what was taught to them? Now just say for instance, we who feel like we day, or we have a little more common sense, or we were grown differently, let's assume that we communicate with persons like these and we are able to share unto them and they are able to share unto us, and we have a common understanding. We are able to grow together. We are able to nurture each other, right? And at the end of the day, we would end up as better beings in society, right? So one language could eradicate a lot of stuff in the school systems, where they are high class schools, right? And then we have the government schools. Then what they were trying to say is that the high class school teach something different to the government, which is totally not all that true. But at the end of the day, the upper class has an advantage where they can afford to send their kids to lessons or top persons to teach them, and they have a better advantage, and they would make sure to keep the information away from those who enter in the government schools who claim, quote unquote, can't afford better. But if we were to combine the both, what would happen? What would happen to the children of society? They would be so blessed, they would be so bright. We would have geniuses outside here, right? You see, this language thing, If we could come together. Now, when we say a common language, you know what a common language does? It brings unity. Everybody come with one mind and one heart. And if we could work together, you know how much we could achieve? There's a lot that can be achieved. Let's look at this corona thing, right? Everybody segregating and pulling away, and who want to highlight the bads, who want to just have you panicking, who just want to, it have those who want to pray, it have those who try to comfort others. If we all could have one mind, one language, one heart, and say, okay, here what? Let us all come together and speak one language. Let's speak one language, one language. If it's the language is to maintain order, let me understand our language now. The Prime Minister says stay home. If you stay home, people, one language, just understand that one language. If we stay home, if we quarantine ourselves, this thing could leave. It will leave faster than it is right now. It's staying too long. If we have one language, it would not have persons who are panicking. We would not share information on the media that will cause havoc. If we have one language, one mind, one heart, and it's to bring the good out of persons, or to comfort them, especially the families and family and they who are affected because they have relatives in the medical field. Come on, if one language, if we could speak this one language, unity, come together, let's come together and support each other, because this is the time we need each other the most. This is the time where we look to the churches. Yes, we do, but how can we as beings assist the churches to continue the journey, to carry on this journey? How? So that's just me, that's just my 2 cents. That is Deborah 2 cents. But at the end of the day, what language are we speaking? If we speak one language, think of the empowerment we would get. Think of how strong we can become as a nation, and not just those upper class persons. I would buy everything in negotiate and pull away, and we would leave those on the lower half to fend for themselves. No. It's not about that kind of life. Let me do something. Let me work together. Come on. Let me work together. Let me work together. Right? One language. The power of one language. Bora out.